Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name's Noelle and I review and unbox subscription boxes here on my channel, and today I have another book subscription to share with you. This one was not sent to me for review. I am a subscriber of Once Upon a Book Club, and of course their adult selection comes in this lovely pink box. The young adult selection I believe comes in a green box. I wish they would reverse that. It is very cute because they're fashioned to look like a book, so when you do have a lot of them stacked up to get through like I did for quite a bit of time, they just look like really big pink books that I had waiting for me. So of course this is one of the, I like to say, OG book subscriptions, where as you are reading along in the book you will come across a page that has a sticky note that tells you to open the corresponding gifts. In this case they do actually write the page numbers on the gifts. I've said plenty on that, I won't say any more, along with the book, and everyone reads the same book, so you can switch between the young adult and the adult selections. They do hints leading up to it. I think usually it's pretty easy to figure out what the upcoming title is. You can also skip. I occasionally skip if it's a romance or something because that's not usually one of my genres of choice. I know they also have a middle grader box now, which I think is great because these boxes are so good in terms of getting you into reading or back into reading, which was definitely the case for me. They do all kinds of holiday limited edition boxes as well. I just finally finished going through their Bridgerton collection where it had all 8 books that they had published, a nice beautiful collection along with gifts. So this is actually the March box, and the theme for it, so kind of the title hint, I guess, was Dangerous Fairy Tales. So we have this lovely little guide that they provide for us, and the book itself was the last tale of the Flower Bride. I've been just calling it shorthand Flower Bride in my head. I will say that I love this nice hardcover. It's a smaller size than usual hardcovers, which I actually really like. It's more of the size of like a paperback, and then they did this nice sort of rough cut edge, which kind of lends itself to this sort of idea of it being a fairy tale back in the days when you actually had to slice open the edges of the pages when they came from the publisher. So I did like the size of it, and it's very got a very evocative cover art as well. So inside of the booklet or the guide, they often have a conversation / little mini interview with the author, which is always really nice. I love reading about that kind of thing. They have discussion questions so that you can actually join in with this as a book club. And they also have read-along dates. I honestly haven't done a lot of the read-alongs with their Facebook group, but I am part of that Facebook group, and I watch every once in a while because sometimes we'll get like a gift and I'm not entirely sure what it is. So sometimes that's helpful to have someone reach out to you in the DMs. But there are 4 gifts in this one. I would say there's usually 3 to 5 gifts. They've been doing a lot better, I'd say, in the last year and a half in terms of the quality of the gifts. They're always lifestyle items. They have them made specifically for the box. The idea is to bring the pages of the novel to life. On the back, they usually have some sort of extra activity or mini article. In this case, we have a recipe for Mexican hot chocolate, which of course, the whole secret with that is to use actual chocolate, right? Instead of just the powdered stuff, and like good whole milk and then a touch of cinnamon. But I thought that was that made sense. Along with the book and the guide, you also get a quote card. So this one says, "In the end, a fairy tale is nothing more than a sense of hope." So I like that. It's a really pretty color blue. And we do have a nice little note from the author, handwritten, which I didn't actually read yet, so I will try to read that to you. We had a little ad for another book in there, which I don't mind that. They always give us a bookmark as well, so it matches and it has the same quote on there. And then we also, this time around, we got a signed book plate. Now, it doesn't really look like much of a signature, but I don't mind that it is branded Once Upon a Book Club, or that they have the Once Upon a Book Club sticker on there. I think that's kind of nice to remember where you got the book, and then of course all of the corresponding gifts. So we will get into the gifts. Let me open up our box. So every once in a while they'll put a little extra shred, but most of the time they are just kind of fitting everything in there very nicely. I will say this is one of the best boxes in terms of gorgeous, sumptuous packaging that they have. I like it when it's a box versus like a mailer bag, and that goes for any book box that does this sort of gift format. Look how pretty that is with those like lovely tulips. I thought that was nice. Again, this is the March box. I don't think I'm skipping the April box because it was a romance, but I will be picking up again in May. page 175, that was another one. And then finally, our final gift was all the way at 268. So they did a really nice job of kind of spreading out the gifts as well. But let me read the blurb to you. And then, like I said, if I have time, I will read in that very tiny handwriting the note from Roshani Shukshi, which I might be mispronouncing her name, so forgive me if I am, but I believe that it is what it is, Roshani. So it says, a sumptuous Gothic-infused story about a marriage that is unraveled by dark secrets, a friendship cursed to end in tragedy, and the danger of believing in fairy tales. The breathtaking adult debut from New York Times bestselling author Roshani Shukshi. So she's a best-selling author, but it's her adult debut, so she must be doing young adult, which I honestly, like, for me, it's really hard to tell the difference sometimes. Once upon a time, a man who believed in fairy tales married a beautiful, mysterious woman named Indigo Maxwell Castañeda. He was a scholar of myths. She was the heiress to a fortune. They exchanged gifts and stories and believed they would live happily ever after. And in exchange for her love, Indigo extracted a promise that her bridegroom, who never is named in the book — it's very interesting, we have whole chapters that are in his voice and we never learn what his name is — extracted a promise that her bridegroom would never pry into her past. But when Indigo learns that her estranged aunt is dying and the couple is forced to return to her childhood home, the House of Dreams, the bridegroom will soon find himself unable to resist. For within the crumbling manor's extravagant rooms and musty halls lurks the shadow of another girl, Azure, Indigo's dearest childhood friend, who suddenly disappeared. As the house slowly reveals his wife's secrets, the bridegroom will be forced to choose between reality and fantasy, even if doing so threatens his marriage or his life. Combining the lush, haunting atmosphere of Mexican Gothic with the dreamy enchantment of the invisible life of Addie LaRue, The Last Tale of the Flower Bride is the spellbinding adult debut from New York Times bestselling author Roshani Shukshi. It's a darkly romantic page-turner about love and lies, secrets and betrayal, and the stories we tell ourselves to survive. So yes, it is a modern fairy tale, but it's interesting because, like, it's kind of modern, but then of course we're going back in time to find out what happened to Azure. And it's got that sort of dreamy quality to it, just in terms of like the names of the people or the lack thereof, the name of the house, this mysterious aunt who can't see anymore, and just trying to figure out what happened to these girls who are very, very close to one another and were able to move into another world. And like, you kind of think they're like part of the fairy world, and you wonder how much of it is real and how much is just their imagination, because they get to the point where they're teenagers and about to like leave and become adults, and they're still spending time in this mythical, magical world, to the point where sometimes I was like, am I missing something? Is this like a psychological thriller where I'm just missing that they have like split identities or something? But I did think it kept me reading. It's not my usual kind of read, but it was very sumptuous, I think is a good adjective for it. So I will be reading the passages that are associated with the gifts and then opening the gifts and sharing them with you. So just in case you are looking forward to reading this book, you might not want to watch this part, but I don't think there's a lot of giveaway parts. So sometimes the sticky note at the bottom is just a little one, because they actually do put it on the page where you're supposed to open it up. I just have to think about remembering what it is. So this is, I believe, in the voice of the bridegroom, and he is someone he's like a scholar who studies myths and sort of like unexplained phenomenon, and you know, he's like a mythical archaeologist or something. He's a scholar. Let's see. I've always been intrigued by these not-quite women, whether they are sirens or mermaids, Kinari or Selkie. The world can't seem to decide whether to condemn, covet, or celebrate them. They're damned as reminders of lust, and yet the House of Luxembourg enthusiastically claimed descent from Melusine's unnatural bloodline, and inside an 11th century church in Durham Castle there lived a mermaid carved in stone. Hundreds of years ago, perhaps some pagan entering a church to escape the cold would have seen that carving as a message, a password of sorts, that even in this strange place and strange religion lay something familiar, even if she is a devil. Sir? I looked up, ready to admit defeat to the waitress and leave, when I saw that she was holding a platter with 2 drinks. She held out an envelope, a gift from another guest. The 2 drinks looked identical, a rich amber whiskey with a perfectly clear sphere of ice. I opened the letter. So he is looking for this artifact, essentially, and of course Indigo has reached out, and they're meeting in this like hotel bar, and he's sort of waxing poetic, but she's already very intriguing. The drink on the left will fill your belly for the rest of your days, but you will only be able to speak truths. The drink on your right will leave you hungrier than before, but will polish every lie that leaves your tongue. So which would you choose? So anyway, I was like, do we get some whiskey? I didn't think it was big enough to get whiskey. So at first I was a little confused. I was like, what is this? It looks like a little like travel coffee cup. I don't mind that it's branded with Once Upon a Book Club once you know what it is. A lot of the times I'm not a huge fan of branding from boxes, but it is of course an ice cube tray so that you can make a nice spherical ice cube. So this is round in the bottom, and then it does have the hole in the top so you can fill your little ice cube and make that nice like highball round sphere ice cube. So I actually thought that was kind of a cool thing to have in there. The next one came on page 58, I believe. That was the big one. So let's see, we have another sort of smaller one, and this is kind of gone back in time, and we are learning about the relationship between indigo and azure. By the way, you guys, let's have a secret password just because I love the beautiful sonically poetic names in this book. Let's have indigo, like the color blue, be our secret password for today. So when you come across a secret password, you want to put it into the Google form linked for you in the description box below. At the end of the month, I go through and I use a random number picker to select a few winners to receive a mystery box as my way of saying thank you so much for watching my videos. You do have to have a US or Canadian mailing address. Canadians, you have to help me out with the shipping a little bit or get a gift card instead. You have to be 18 years or older, and you do have to be a subscriber of my channel. Doesn't have to be publicly. I can definitely confirm with you via email. Just a reminder, it is not associated with YouTube or any of the boxes that I open here on the channel. Just my way of saying thank you so much for watching. And the secret password, once again, is Indigo, one of the main characters of the book. Let's see. Where is this one? Where is this one? It says, oh, a year had passed since I'd held out my hand for Indigo's knife. We now had matching scars on our palms, pale little divots like the slap of twin fish tails. Today, sunlight lay thick on the trees. The air shimmered, panting from the heat. Indigo and I sat at the dining room table, half-heartedly piecing together a puzzle that she told me would become a door to the kingdom of mermaids if we finished it before midnight. I glanced at the clock. It was hardly noon. Midnight was far away. Around us, the house hummed drowsily. So the house is very much a character in this book as well, and I actually thought that was done so much better than another horror book that I read a little while ago where the house was supposed to be a character. I did not like that one. But in this one, the House of Dreams definitely has a character. So beautiful packaging, right? Love this wrapping paper. And I tried to open it kind of neatly, nicely, so that I could share that wrapping paper with you guys. And sometimes, you know, I'm not necessarily always with my whole box, so sometimes I have to come back and read things. So we got a puzzle, and this is the cover. It is a quote. It says, "Happiness is like those places in fairy tales whose gates are guarded by dragons. We must fight in order to conquer it." Alexandre Dumas Père. So it is a 500-piece puzzle. It is 24 by 18 inches. It is the Fairy Tales Are Real puzzle. So inside we do have this little fold-out sheet that can be your guide. And then it's just a bunch of puzzle pieces. So I thought that was kind of interesting to have a quote as a puzzle, but this is the kind where I might actually consider framing that puzzle once I'm done with it and putting it if I had a library room or a reading room in my house, because I think it's really pretty with the forest green border, and I love that idea, this like fairy tale quote. So I actually thought that was a decent gift from Once Upon a Book Club, and not like super branded. It does say it right here because they must have had it created, but it seems like a really nice quality box too to keep it in. So I thought that was a good gift. The next one came on page 175. So let's find this one. 175. I have to see if I can remember what it is. Okay, so this is like a lighter box. Oh, so of course what comes between the girls at one point is as they start to get a little bit older, one of them meets a boy. So while Indigo is gone, Azure meets someone. Let's see. Okay. So this is actually in the voice of the bridegroom, which is Indigo's husband, who is kind of starting to learn everything. And he is, I believe, hiding in her room. So it says, and he's been kind of going through her room trying to figure out what happened to Azure. A decade's worth of dust coated the floor, and in the mirror's reflection I could see the newly blank spaces where my shoes had disturbed its rest. I had the childish notion that if I couldn't see myself, then no one else could either. My hands were full of treasures, the jar with the one rattling tooth and the cassette tape. You're my favorite blue. Love, Lyric. So we have to ask, who is Lyric? So Lyric was the love interest of Azure, and then when, of course, they have a very codependent, sort of toxic relationship, and of course when Indigo realizes that she might be losing her best friend to this guy, it doesn't go well. But we have Lyric's mixtape, you guys. Do you remember? This will age everyone. Do you remember making mixtapes? I am a Zennial, but I remember making mixtapes for, not like my boyfriends or anything. I didn't really have that. It was more like my girlfriends, and I would make mixtapes for each other, and I used to listen to them all the time. So this is also made for Once Upon a Book Club, because it even says it. I do think it's kind of cute when they sort of have stuff, you know, they remind you of what the quote is, so there's like a nice backer card. So what we got is a sponge. It's a kitchen sponge. So I thought that was kind of cute. So it's a kitchen sponge that looks like a cassette tape. So this is the like rougher side, but this is more like foam. That almost looks like a paint, like foam kind of thing. So I mean, I guess you could use that as a kitchen sponge, but I thought it was kind of cute, and it does say, "You're my favorite shade of blue, love, Lyric." Speaking of beautiful names in this book. So I thought that was cute. It is kind of silly and retro and unexpected for sure, and sort of a different interpretation. We have one final gift, of course, that came on page 268. Let me find this one. Let's see if I can remember what this is. So it's getting to the point where Azure she wants to escape and go out on her own. She has a very like tenuous, difficult relationship with her mother and sort of stepfather, and we're hoping that she doesn't necessarily just be attached to the House of Dreams and Indigo for the rest of her life, because Indigo is very spoiled. She's like comes from a wealthy family, and you know, as even and equal as they try to be, she needs to break away and have her own life. So they do all kinds of rituals and things for like the other world. So let's see. They're going to do a sacrifice so that she can. Says, the House of Dreams did not like my plan though. It whimpered and whined the day I bought my bus ticket and hid it in the Room of Secrets. It did not matter how many times I stroked the stair banister and promised to return. I chose our costumes from the depths of Tati's closet. That's the aunt. Two skies hanging on velvet hangers. One was rich cerulean and silver, lace siphoned off the sea. The other was damson, dark and smoky, all the edges of dusk cast into silk. I fashioned us up a pair of thyrsus staffs, like the ones borne aloft by Bacchic Maenads. I crowned our spears with pine cones and wrapped them round with ribbons and ivy. We wore no jewelry, but we dusted our arms and chests with pulverized pearls. Indigo spritzed herself with perfume. Normally I didn't wear any, but tonight I opened my hand for the slender glass vial and satin atomizer, wrapping myself in the thick scent of green apples. I tied back the long curling hair that hung over my breast with a bone-colored ribbon. The hair was not mine, but Indigo couldn't tell. So see, you can hear the like richness of the language in this book, and also just they do these elaborate rituals, and they just seem like these magical flower children frolicking in the forest and going to this other world, and we don't know if it's real or if they're just really good at playing pretend. So inside we got a glass vial of that perfume, and it is called Indigo. I thought this was actually really cool. I've gotten a lot of perfumes made for book boxes lately. So it is indeed a green apple perfume, but look at how pretty this amber vial is. In terms of having a perfume made for a box, I thought that was really nice, and it just came in this little case. I'm not sure that it's something that I will use, although I really like green apple as like a fresh and fruity scent. It just could be a little bit too fake in terms of scent. Oh no, it's actually kind of nice. It's like a fresh, fruity apple scent. So I kind of think that's perfect for spring, in all honesty. And I thought that was a really cool item. So For me, it was a little bit of a different read for me, but I did really enjoy it, and I thought the gifts were pretty good. The sponge I won't necessarily, like, I mean, I guess I'll use it, but I really liked the spherical ice cube maker. I liked the scent. I thought that was lovely, and even though I'm not really a puzzle person, I thought the puzzle was really cool too. So for me, this was a really good book box from Once Upon a Book Club. It kind of got me out of my box in terms of the kinds of reads that I like, and I really enjoyed it, and I loved the language of it. So I hope if you have a chance you can read The Last Tale of the Flower Bride and let me know if you think they're just really good at their imaginations or if they were really fey. I hope you enjoyed, and if you could, please do leave a comment and a thumbs up. I truly appreciate it. If you got to this point, there was a secret password in this video. Make sure you get that, and I will see you all very, very soon in my next unboxing.